The Sony A7 III is a full-frame mirrorless camera, able to film gorgeous 4K video and slow motion in HD. Let's look at some work from Bar University students. At the moment at Bath Spa, the Sony A7 comes in a clear plastic case. Let's see what's in the box. We have got the charger, plug that into the main supply, and that goes into the side of the camera whilst the battery is in the camera, and that will charge it up overnight. We have got a 64 gig card. That's a very fast one, 170 megabits per second, which we need to shoot for shooting 4K. And we have got a spare battery here. Also, we got our lens, which is a 2870 kit prime, and this fits on the camera, okay? And it's a zoom. Additional pieces that we have got the Metabones adapter. This will fit onto here, and it's got an EF mount, because this is a Sony E mount, but the EF mount will take Canon lenses, but it will also take the Samyang Cine primes that we have as well. Over here, we've got a circular polarizer. This filter is used to help cut back reflections. It's very common when filming cars or shooting through windows or on water. And here we have got a screw-in ND filter, which will then go onto this lens here. The ND filter will cut the light back, which means that you can shoot wide open on this lens to reduce your depth of field, regardless of how bright it is. On the right-hand side of the camera is the SD card slot. Let's flick this open just like so. And then we've got space for two cards. If we put the card in the bottom slot, and again we go brass connections facing us, and we push this in, let it click, that's in. Little red light goes on to make sure it's in. Close this up, and that clicks closed. And that clicks closed, like so. At the base of the camera, we've got the battery compartment. So we flick this little lever open, then the door opens, battery gets pushed in, like so, and this little blue lever clicks into place. If we want to get the battery out, it's a combination of pushing the battery in, getting the lever out, battery slides out. To take the lens on and off, we press this release button here, twist the lens off. To put it back on, we make sure that we've got the white dot on the lens lined up with the dot on the mount. Twist back into place. To turn the camera on, we flick the switch at the front here. Then we make sure that we are set for movie mode at the top dial here. The wheel at the front of the camera can be used to adjust the iris, opening and closing. We have got the shutter adjustment wheel. The top left, we have got an assignable button here. We have the menu button here. We have the video record button, the autofocus on and off button, the auto exposure lock button, the joystick for positioning the focus zones, the function button. This brings us up our function displays. We have got the wheel, which we use for navigating around the menu, but also we can use it for changing our ISO. We have got our bin for clips we don't want, and playback of clips. The menu system of the Sony A7 is extensive and, to be honest, a little bit daunting if you've not come across it before. But I will endeavour to give you an overview now before I actually start showing you how to put in particular features. So we access the menu by pressing the button here, And then we can navigate through the menu mostly by using this up and down function of the wheel here. And again, when you're at the top, you can go from side to side. You can also, if you want to, use the wheels at the top to do that as well. That's not a bad way of just making sure you've got side-to-side movement. So at the top here, we have got we've got camera tab 1, camera tab 2. And in camera tab 1, if I go down, we've got these pages. Okay, we've got pages 1 of 14. So if we just click through these from side to side, start off, we've got quality image size page 1, 2, and then we go to page 3, which is shoot mode, drive, and we go through these, etc., etc., autofocus settings, exposure settings, flash settings, color balance, all sorts, focus assist. Then that's 14 pages. Then if we go to the right-hand one, then we've got camera tab 2. Then we've got the various movie modes. We've got exposure modes. We've got our file formats, record settings, high-speed settings. And again, by scrolling through here, we've got autofocus drive speeds, audio timing. Again, we've just got lots and lots of these pages that go through here. Most of the time, you will be working just within the camera 1 and the camera 2 tab. You won't be doing a great deal to do with networking unless when you actually start thinking about streaming or connecting it to your phone. If we just go up, playback, that's just for playing back using this button here. But in the setup, you will get into here because you might want to change your monitor brightness, your viewfinder brightness. It's where you can actually set the time limit because the camera might turn itself off after a minute. You might want to keep it on for 5 minutes. It's also where you format your card, okay? But for the most part, you're going to be dealing in the setup, which is the toolbox, and the camera tabs 1 and 2. Okay, let's format the card. We're going to go over to the toolbox, and then into the pages, over to page 5, down to format, slot 1. Okay, there. I'm not going to do that because I've got something in here already. So let's set the recording format on the camera. Hit the menu, and I know that we need to go across to camera 2 tab, and then we come down to file format in the first page. And at the moment, we've got the choice of XAVC HD or 4K. So let's go up to 4K, okay? Press that in, and then go to record settings, just one below. And here we have got the choice of 25 frames per second at 100 megabits or 25 at 60 megabits. Unless you're really short on data space on your card, make sure that you go for 100 megabits, okay? We can only go one speed on this, that's 25 frames per second. If we want to go high speed, we want to then go to HD. Okay, so let's go back to file format, go to XAVC HD. Don't go to AVCD HD, it's just not worth it because we lose a lot of features. The functionality of the camera is compromised. So just go to HD, okay? What this now gives us, if we go to record settings, we have then got our choices of frame rates, 100p, 25p or 50p, okay? So again, in this case, we want to go to 100p at 100 megabytes per second, okay? Now remember, this is still drawing off a 4K sensor, so even though your output is HD, it is still a very, very high quality detailed image. S&Q settings, okay? What we can do here is that we can make the record setting at 25p. That is basically what the sequence is if you put it into Premiere, and then the frame rate we can then go up to 100 frames per second. This is all well and good, but ultimately you end up with a slightly slower data rate, so you're better off shooting high speed by going back to 100p. but that does mean that when you play it back, your motion will be normal, but you'll have 100 frames per second sequence that you then go into Premiere and you can stretch that out and make perfect slow motion. Let's set our exposure mode to manual. Menu. Now we need to be in the second camera tab, camera 2, page 1, exposure mode, manual exposure. And that means that then we can have manual exposure, shutter priority, which means that we could, if we just have the shutter set at 50th, then it'll then change the aperture for us. Or we can have aperture priority, so we could just go wide open, let it change the shutter, or we could go program auto. But I think that we should be on manual, okay? Manual exposure. Let's set our internal audio recording. Menu, camera tab 2, on page 2, audio recording on or off, let's have it on, and then audio record levels. Okay, we might want to change this up and down. If we're just using the internal microphone, we might want to set that depending on the conditions. If it's very loud and you're at a gig, you are going to want to turn this down. Also be massively distorted. Likewise, you'll turn it up if it's quiet. It is more important if you've got an external microphone going into the camera, then depending on how loud the microphone is, you're going to need to set the levels this way as well. Using just the dedicated record button can be a bit of a pain in the neck. It'd be more useful to actually use the shutter at the front. It's just more ergonomically happy. And also if you've got a cage, it might get in the way as well. So let's set this up. Again, we're in camera 2. Let's go to page 3. And we need to get to movie with shutter button on or off. Let's have that on. Again, camera 2, page 4, and we go steady shot on or off. Let's go on. This is more useful if you've got the kit lens on, you're moving around. If you've actually got the camera on the tripod, I actually wouldn't have this on at all. If you're just doing slow pans on a tripod, turn it off. But if you're doing any kind of handheld work, let's keep it on. Normally by default, the AF on button is what we use to go from manual focus to autofocus. If it's not set up, what we need to do is go into menu, and then in camera tab 2, page 8, we have got custom keying. Can you see the little film icon there? Okay, then we've got 3 pages here, and we go along, because these are all the custom buttons on the top. Custom 1 and 2 we can do. I'm going to move along. And then we get to this one here, AF on button, and as it is set here to AF manual focus control toggle. I could change it to any of these others, but I don't want to. I want to keep it as it is. Okay, so then turn that on and off. Then that means I can have that set for this. Like the Sony X70s and the Canon C100s we have at Bath Spa, this camera has got a focus magnifier, which is essential for checking your focus, particularly when you're doing interviews and you're in a manual mode where you don't necessarily want to be on a autofocus because it might breathe in and out a little bit. So we want to get this little chap, our Lego figure, in focus. So how are we going to do it? I can focus it like this here. But really it would be handy to have a magnifier. So let's go into the menu, and then we've got focus magnifier, which is in camera tab 1, page 13. Okay, and that brings it on. I can then navigate up and down here, and if I press in, that zooms in for me. Okay, and that's perfect. Might even have one more chance to go in. There we are, comes back out. Now I've actually set this up onto this right-hand button here. Now this is actually the auto exposure lock button, but I think it's more useful to have the focus magnifier here because this is similar to where it is on the Canon C100 and the Sony A70. So it should be a good way to remember it. If I press it in, again, I'm ready to go here. So at the back here, we have got the autofocus on and off button. Now this is set by default. I would always leave this be, okay? So by turning this on and off, we have got manual focus there, and then I can mess around with the focus and put that on the background. Can you see I've got the red peaking going on here? This is because I have assigned a peaking button to one of these at the front, okay? Peaking display is off, zebra is on. This is how I like these set up. I will go through these again later. Let's put this back onto autofocus here. Now autofocus is working on my little character there, but he won't always get to that little fella. There's several other parameters which will affect this. So if I go to my function display here, I have got these various focus parameters set up. So the first one I've got set up here is focus area. Okay, so at the moment I'm on flexible spot, which is a pretty good compromise. That's generally going to find your more foreground subject. Center, again, that's going to be centering on whatever is in the middle of the frame there, which is the window frame rather than the Lego man. Zone, that works in conjunction with this joystick. That's more about if you wanted, say, something on the right-hand side of frame to be in focus rather than the left-hand side. Then you've got the wide. Now the wide is obviously going to work because it's got the whole background in. So that's only going to get the background. So what we really want to be is on flexible spot there. Let's turn that off. Okay, the other one that we've got here is face eye priority in autofocus. Might not work so well with the little Lego man, but if I press this, this is a way that I can turn this on and off. This is particularly useful if you are on a gimbal or you're just going around handheld doing a music video or something. But if you're on the move or if your actor is on the move, it will focus on their face. I will get a little bit of footage with that, with a human to make this work for you. So I'm going to turn this off for now. Back to function. Touch operation. I'm going to turn this on. Again, this is a focus thing. If I go to on, now what I can do here is if I touch the background, it'll make a little window and it'll set the focus on the background. If I want to do a focus pull and I want to get the Lego man on the tripod, press that. Try again. Try again. Doesn't always work. And it's found him, you see? So this is a way that you can affect a focus pull without actually touching the lens. It's a little bit glitchy, but it seems to work. Let's have a look at the picture profiles that we've got set up. If I press the function button, I have then go to picture profiles. And at the moment, there's nothing on. You see, it says off. There's my image. And if I scroll down, I've made note of what these are. These are like placeholders, P1 and P2. But as a default, when you reset the camera, you get certain picture profiles in there already. So 1, which is on, that's S-Log3. That's the flattest profile that they do. Okay. Picture profile 2 is still. I don't know what you'd use that for, maybe shooting stills. Picture profile 3 is Cine 1. Picture profile 4 is S-Log2. Picture profile 5, for some reason, is Cine 1 again. Picture profile 6 is HLG. And picture profile 7 is S-log again. What's number 8? S-log 3 again. Number 9, that's 3 as well. Again, they're placeholders, so you can just put in what you need. To bring up our white balance, menu, and we're on camera tab 1 and page 14, white balance. And at the moment we're on daylight, we could go on auto white balance. And we've got all the presets there that we need to, incandescent, fluorescent. And then underwater auto, but then also we have got a color temperature, and we can click on that one, and then we can do it as a numeric value as well. So we could put 5,600 for daylight or 3,200 for tungsten in the studio. On this page as well, we have got grid lines. I find the rule of thirds grid is the most useful. You can actually turn them all off. If I look at this here, we've got nothing on it at all. But the rule of thirds is not too onerous at all. I find that quite useful there. And it's quite faint. It's quite a subtle line as well. Also on this page, we can set our zebras up. Menu, zebra setting, and we go display on, display level 90. Okay, and again we can select these up or down like so. So if I've got this on 70, it's on the window, 80 there. Now again, I have got the zebras set up on one of the function keys, so I can turn it on and off as well, like so. Sony A7, because it's got a large sensor, lends itself towards shooting widescreen because it's got such a lovely detailed image. So let's see how we can turn our markers on, which will mean then we can make sure that our composition is correct at the time of photography rather than just slapping bars on top and bottom during the edit. So go menu, and we're on the camera tab 2, page 3, and we have got marker settings, marker display. So let's turn the display on already. So let's go on here. Okay, but then let's make sure we got the settings are correct. And then we need to go down to here to aspect ratio. And we've got a choice, but in this case we want to use 2.35 to 1, and this is the widescreen. Okay, let's go and then come back out. Now we've got our bars and we can make sure the composition is there. It will still record the whole frame, but the thing is, it means that then we can be assured that if we put the same size mask on in the edit, that anything top and bottom that we don't want will be framed out. So this button here, FN, function, if I press this, this brings up a tray of handy little items from the menu, which I can get to without trawling through the menu, which as you can see can be quite extensive. So how can I actually select what particular menu items I need in here? So let's turn the function off. Let's go to my menu. And then I know that I need to go to the second camera tab. So I'm going to click over to there, up, over, back down. Then I happen to know once I'm in camera tab 2, I need to get to page 8. Page 8. Then I go down to function menu set. Okay, and you see the first one is ISO. Now actually I don't need ISO because I've got this on this wheel here. So I'm going to press this one. I'm going to choose something else. So I'm going to go down and let's find S&Q. That's slow and quick frame rate. Let's choose that one. Okay, S&Q. So now I've got S&Q frame rate, and then the next one is white balance, next one's picture profile. If I then clear that, turn the menu off, press to function, now I've got my 100 frames per second, I have got my white balance, I've got my picture profile. And that's how I can select all of these. In the next section I will show you all the things I've got in here. So if we start off here, we have got S&Q. Frame rate, this is for jumping straight to variable frame rate without having to go through the menu. Then we've got white balance. Then we've got our picture profile. Then we've got our zebra level settings, which we can change. Then we have got gamma display assist. We've got our marker display. Along the bottom, we've then got our steady shot, our audio levels that we can change, our focus area, our face eye priority in the autofocus, our touch operation to touch the back of the screen, and our exposure mode. The Metabones adapter, when attached to the camera, is proud, which means you have to attach the mounting plate off the tripod to it rather than the camera itself. You can see the gap beneath there. Metabones will take any lens with an EF mount. This is 150mm Sigma zoom, and let's see what it looks like with the Samyang Prime.